Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Jeremy Schumacher. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm the Jer in Wellness with Jer. Thanks for stopping by and checking out the channel today. I don't have a good way to do this, so we're just going to run it like this. I'm going to slowly be rolling out reviews of films that I saw at the Milwaukee Film Festival. I'm a Milwaukee native. I am a homer for Milwaukee things. It is an underrated city. We have a lot of cool stuff that goes on here. And the Film Fest is one of those things. Milwaukee Film owns two historic theaters in the downtown on the east side area, not quite downtown, downtown-ish, on the east side of Milwaukee. So the Oriental Theater and the Downer Theater, they're both very old theaters that are very cool. If you've never been to the Oriental in Milwaukee, you should go. It's an experience that is worth going to. I love movies. I love weird movies. My wife and I are Milwaukee Film members. This is the first film festival we've gone to, though, so that was a different experience. And I've been to the Oriental before. I've been to the Downer before. I think I've seen a Milwaukee Film Festival before, a film before, but never like got passes to the festival. We just did like a 10-pack or whatever. So we ended up seeing a total of 7 movies at the film festival. There were hundreds of movies at the film festival. Again, like you hear Milwaukee and maybe you think like Giannis. Maybe you think about beer. You might not think art and cinema. We are very famous for our art museum here. So you know we got the art stuff. It's just we're known for beer. So yeah, the film festival is very cool. A bunch of movies that I don't even know how to like promote. they're on the film festival circuit. Milwaukee has a world-class film festival. Films that are at Tribeca, at Venice, then come to Milwaukee too. So a lot of these films aren't on streaming services yet. They're not in theater. I feel like a bit of a pretentious person to be like, check out these movies that are nowhere to be found. And content creation is the thing when you're doing that. This is not my full-time job. I have a full-time job, a good one that is important to society. This is just a creative outlet for me to talk about mental health in a certain way. And I saw some cool films, so I want to talk about them. So there were, again, hundreds of films, a bunch of documentaries that I really wanted to see. My wife and I sort of loosely agreed. We each looked at all the different movies and circled the ones we would see, and then we picked the ones that we overlapped on. We sort of were like, lots of cool documentaries, but documentaries are like great for streaming services, are great for a rainy day, are great for when you want to watch an hour of something, but not a 2-hour film. So we sort of leaned against the documentaries. There's one that was a bunch about just like the carceral system and what's broken about it. And those are important to watch. And I will probably catch them at some point, but also they don't make you feel good. Although most of the movies I picked don't make you feel good either. And there's one that I definitely wanted to see that was about the troubled teen industry. And if you listen to the podcast, Your Therapist Needs Therapy, or watch my other YouTube videos, I've already talked about that a lot because one of the things I work with is religious trauma. And so that follows. So this is a very long preamble. This is the first one I'm doing from the Milwaukee Film Festival. We all got to rate our movies because there's an award at the end of it for fan favorite film. And a little insider scoop is that fiction movies almost never win. So the movies that I gave 5 stars to did not win awards, which is a real bummer for me because they're very good. But I'm going to start with one of the ones that I gave 5 stars to. I really enjoyed it. It was a good viewing experience and it had a lot to say, I think, about mental health. So the film is called Peacock. It is not in English. It is PV. Hang on, I've got the German title up here. I don't speak German, so we're just going to slaughter it. PV bin ich echt? ? It's really hard to like search for this movie because there's a streaming service that is called Peacock. So if you were to be like streaming service, Peacock streaming to try and find when this film comes out or where it is, you just get a bunch of advertisements for NBC. So if you don't want a bunch of advertisements from NBC in your algorithm, make sure you type 2024 or like you have to put film because if you just put a date, then they still give you a bunch of stuff about Peacock. Stupid. Remember when the streaming services seemed really cool and awesome and all they did is make cable all over again, but worse? Yeah, I remember. So Peacock is a film about Matthias is our main character, and he works for a service, a rent-a-friend service. But it's a little bit more nuanced than that. It's not sexual. It's not an escort service, but you're sort of renting someone to be an expert to fill a role in your life. So Matthias is a gay lover for somebody who's trying to find a house that is only going to be rented to couples. He is a poses as someone's son to help them win an award so they can be the president for their club. He helps someone learn how to be a better arguer by playing the role of their husband, who they argue with all the time. So he's this like multiple person. He goes to this really like I'm going to call it an artsy fartsy concert, even though again I'm talking about movies that you can't see because apparently I have fallen upwards into the artsy fartsy community. I have my Lord of the Rings poster and my college dorm room basement decorations behind me. I'm not a pretentious person. um, and so he plays these roles and like he takes it very seriously. He studies up on them. The concert's a good example where he has sort of these lines prepared that he can offer. Like, here's what I thought this music was about. It's like a classical music concert in this like very nice garden, fancy garden, almost like a botanical garden type setup. And he's got a couple lines to carry the conversation around. Isn't this music wonderful? Isn't it grand? And so he sort of throws himself into these roles of being these other people. And then we see Matthias when he goes home to his house where he's accumulated all this stuff from his role in which he makes a lot of money and gets to live all these different lives that like his girlfriend is not particularly fond of. He comes home with like this stuffed polar bear that's like a piece of furniture. And she's like, oh, that's nice. We could throw our coats on it. And he's like, no, it's like nice. It's designer. It'll spark some conversation. And she's just not feeling it. She's not feeling him. He's very not himself anymore. He's all these different roles. He sort of lost himself in it. And she wants to break up. He is struggling with this concept and he sort of gets this idea in his head that he isn't real. And he starts to worry that he's not real because all the things he's doing are also like setups. They're prepared, they're planned, they're performative for these other people. There's a golf cart that's on fire that he helps someone else put out, so they seem like a hero. Like he does all these things, and then he takes pieces of this and like brings it home, but like it's awkward in real life instead of being like endearing. And I think there's a very obvious satire here for what the film industry has to be like and what being an actor is probably like. And that, comedy and satire and some of these things only work in a really good setup. Again, I think I've mentioned this in other videos. If you listen to stand up comedians talk, I'm a pretty big stand up fan. So watch a lot of the behind the scenes stuff and listen to interviews elsewhere because, like, a lot of stand-ups have things to say about mental health. They'll talk about like how they're not particularly funny people like at a party. Like if you meet some stand-up socially and you're like, oh, you tell jokes funny, tell a joke. Like it doesn't work. Like stand-up works in the environment where a bunch of people come into a theater expecting to laugh, and then that's the setup. So a comedian will have a joke that sets up the punchline, but the environment in which you're in is a funny thing. And I meet a lot of people, right, in my job. And occasionally people are like, Jared, let me tell you a joke. And like, sometimes they're funny. Mostly they're like, that's not an appropriate thing to be saying in public. Let's talk about that once I close the door. And I don't berate people. I'm not, punishing them for it. But most of the jokes I've heard in my 16 years of doing therapy have not been funny and have been not great. Um, most of my clients aren't telling me jokes. This is a rare occurrence. But again, there's this idea that, like, in a certain context, this stuff works. Trying to think of a good example. Um, I watch a lot of Game Changer, which is all the people who used to be on like Cracked and all these other things. I'm a millennial. I think they probably appeal to a certain age of people who grew up with the internet. Um, so some of that early college humor type adjacent stuff. A lot of those people are still very funny people, very creative people. And so Game Changer is like a bunch of improv comedians on a game show that doesn't seem to have a lot of rules. And it's very funny, and it wouldn't work without that setup, right? So I think it's sort of playing with, I'm guessing, the idea of what it's like to be an actor. I think the movie kind of reminded me of like some of the awkwardness of Barry, the HBO show with Bill Hader, where Barry sort of learns something in acting class and then tries it out in real life and then just goes very poorly because he's neither a good actor nor a particularly good human. Bill Hader is a good enough actor to be able to pull that off. Matthias, the guy who plays Matthias Albrecht Schuch, I'm just making it sound real German, was fantastic. I mean, he crushed it. He played the whole thing very well. He's the straight character, um, not commenting on his sexuality, commenting on like the role he plays in the show is the straight man. There's all these ludicrous things going on around him, and he keeps a straight face and doesn't react very much to any of it. And he's really good. It's just a lot. It's not like The Office and the American Office. eh, Not even like the awkwardness of the British Office, because again, this is a German Swedish film. Uh, there's some uncomfortableness, but like it doesn't play as a gag per se. It's awkward because the human condition is awkward more than like, look at Ricky Gervais making everyone else around him, or Steve Carell around him, everyone around him uncomfortable, like in the office setting. It's not so uncomfortable as that. It's just like, this is weird. He answers the door for a plumber because he has this recurring plumbing issue as he sort of slowly is losing his mind. There's a sound that keeps going off in his house that's really setting him off. So the plumber comes, and we see these just sort of awkward exchanges with the plumber when she comes to the door. He doesn't know that a plumber got called because his girlfriend had called. He answers in his underwear. He answers very disheveled. He's looking for his dog at one point. Like, we just sort of see these awkward interchanges, and it's the human condition. And then we see these very contrived, sort of controlled exchanges that he has with the people who are renting his services. And it's not like that. And that's one of the things that I feel about modern podcasting, about TV shows, about relationships, even about like reality TV, or like react. I have a distaste for reaction videos, where people pretend to be shocked. Oh my gosh, I've never heard this song that's been out for 50 years and is on everything. Like, that's fake, you know? I don't know. I don't know what's up with Gen Z and their mirror neurons firing when they see somebody feeling emotions, but it's a thing. It drives me batty as a millennial. It's one of my obscure distastes for the younger generations. Like, your reaction YouTubers are not surprised by these things. They've prepped this. They know how they're going to respond. It's all over the top. As somebody who watches pro wrestling, I can tell you, like, if they're in on the joke, they're just overemphasizing their emotion to tell a story. Anyway, uh, I viewed a lot of this not through an acting lens or theater, because I have no experience in either, but through that mental health perspective of like, being a therapist is kind of weird. And you're showing up and you're holding space for clients and you're meeting them where they're at. So you're sort of, it's not rent a friend, because we're not friends with our clients. It's a very different, unique relationship that really doesn't exist in the real world. And I think when therapists show up authentically, it obviously translates to the real world. I tell people, like, if you run into me at Summerfest, or you into me out and about in Milwaukee, because Milwaukee's not that big of a city, like, this is how you're going to see me. How I show up in therapy is also how I show up in my real life. But the setup, the environment is unique. We're coming together for an hour to talk about what's going on in your life. It's not a like mutual relationship. I have clients who ask me how I'm doing. I have clients who know things about my life and we chat about them because it relates to what they're going through. And it's not equivalent, like people are paying for my services to help them with what they're struggling with in their life. And so that rent a friend thing is very different than what therapy is, but that like be whatever these people need to be helpful thing is very real. And again, I think how I felt about that as a young therapist versus how I feel about that as a experienced therapist is a lot different. I'm far more comfortable referring people out to other therapists if they don't really fit in my scope of practice, or if it's just like not a case that I'm particularly interested in working with. I have ADHD, so pretty much anything that's new and novel, my brain's like, "Ooh, let's do that." So a lot of it has been like fine tuning my scope of practice, and then the second part of that is building out your referral sources so you can actually refer people to good therapists who are going to be a good fit instead of just being like, these people will take insurance, go see them. Fucking American healthcare system's a nightmare. Shoot, there goes my algorithm. I just swore. Uh, I have a small subscriber base, and I'm talking about movies that aren't available anywhere. I'm not appealing to the algorithm. That was a little tongue in cheek. The idea of this be all things to all people is certainly interesting. And again, it's different than theater. It's not an act. It's not a performance. But I think there's a lot going on in the background for how we show up, why we're showing up that way, how we regulate ourselves to be able to show up. I saw another therapist post online recently that like you're paying for our regulated nervous system, which I like sort of rolled my eyes and wanking motion at. Like I just like therapists who are super pretentious online. Um, there's a piece of that, sure. I would never, ever, ever put that on a website or a marketing piece of information and be like, look at how regulated I am. Come see me. I'm very calm. Some of that is my awareness of mental health and the work that I do myself. Some of that is just I've always been a calm person. Some of that is on the spectrum. So my affect can be a little flat sometimes. Um, so yeah, like I don't put therapy on this like magical pedestal. I think people can help people. I think people want to help people. I think we are naturally wired to be altruistic. And therapy is an environment, is a setup where we're very specifically trying to meet people where they're at so we can help them with the things that they're bringing to us. Um, in the way that you take your car into a mechanic and they know that this 2012 model of this brand of this thing requires this piece, that sort of like personalized. I don't know that you can personalize car care. That's sort of specialized for this specific instance in this specific environment is what therapy is doing. It's just that people are far more variable than the make or model of a car is. So that personalized care is really important. And that's what the movie's getting at is like, what is connection? Because you can fake connection and it's still meaningful. These rent a friend relationships are important to the people who are renting them. And for Matthias, they're not. He's not getting anything out of them. He's getting the paycheck, but he's losing himself in sort of these roles, which are deep for the person who's paying for them, but are not particularly fulfilling for him. And the relationship that he does have with his girlfriend becomes unfulfilling for her because he loses himself. He's not grounded in any sort of like himself. And I think people change over time. I think this concept of self and grounding through it is ongoing active work. I think people who know themselves and are like a finished product are probably boring. I think we as people should, and I don't use the word should very often, but I think we should change and grow over time. I think that's healthy. So this concept of self is just sort of, um, it can be a little amorphous, but like we have an idea of it, we're comfortable with it. It's clay, it's Play-Doh, it's dirt, it's something we can stick our hands into and play with. There's a solidness to it, even if it is malleable and something we change over time. And so that's what Matthias is just sort of missing is this malleability. He's vacillates between like too malleable, be anything to anyone, and then not having like himself. And so it's a really interesting premise. There's some great dogs in this film, and there's a really sad dog moment that like I'm chuckling about because I can appreciate sort of a dark movie. Um, there's a lot of like over the top absurdity to this movie. I gave away like some spoilers, but not all of them. It's worth a watch, even if you're like, ugh, not in English. Hello, fellow pretentious American who only speaks one language. It's worth a watch. It's a good film. It's very well made. There's a lot of cool like set pieces in it and a lot of really interesting interactions. The other lens I sort of viewed this film through is as somebody who is neurodivergent, both ADHD and on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, of what like masking is like. And this is a thing that like again, so I'm neurodivergent, and then I have this job where I'm showing up in very specific ways for very specific people. And so I sometimes joke about being like a sociopath, but at least I'm using my powers for good. And it's one of those things where my wife, who knows me very well, and is one of those like helpful people for grounding myself when my brain starts following itself down its own rabbit hole. Let's do some navel gazing. It's this idea of like, no, you're not like someone who has no feelings. You're not a robot. You're not an evil genius manipulating people into doing what you think is healthy for them. Like you're just a person showing up. Like calm the fuck down. Um, and I'm a better therapist when I'm just a person showing up to help people. Like that is what works better. And so Matthias sort of we don't really know if he gets there, but he's on the journey anyway to landing there as he deals with some of his own personal relationships falling apart, some personal relationships he's tried to build or grow, not going where he wants them to, and seeing some of the fallout of his rent a friend friendships outside of that very contrived context in which they exist. And so, yeah, it's it's satire but not in a like heavy-handed hit you over the head sort of way. It is very much an entertaining look at the performative nature of a lot of our relationships, and it sort of posits the question of what relationships are meaningful, what connections in our life are meaningful, without answering the question, because it doesn't need to. It sort of shows that like that answer depends on how you live your life. And so I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was wildly entertaining. There's some laugh out loud, funny spots. The people who sat behind us at the film fest talked through the whole thing. Don't do that. Don't be that person. Don't be that person at your local AMC, Marcus Theater, wherever, whatever local thing is around you. But definitely don't do that at a film festival. These are the people who take cinema very seriously. Um, I'm Midwest nice, so I didn't turn around and say anything to them. But they would have been irritating at like a big theater chain, let alone at a film festival showing. I think every movie I saw at the film festival I enjoyed more than I would streaming or watching from home. And I don't like people. Again, no me spending time in this video to complain about the people who sat behind us. But there's something about the film festival that again is like it's like going to see a stand-up comedian. Like it's very funny to be in an environment where you've mentally prepared to laugh and then someone gives you the context that you can laugh with. It's very enjoyable to go see a film with other people who love films when you go to a context expecting to see a film that you're going to love. So it was very fun. This was like a matinee showing for us. A lot of the films showed a couple different times at different in different theaters. So this is at the Oriental, but not in the main theater. So a little bit of a different experience, a little bit cozier of a venue, and it was really good. Again, so I've sort of put off doing film fest reviews because I want to be like, hey, this just popped up on XYZ streaming service. Absolutely go check it out. I loved it. Go watch it. It's great. And they're either still doing the film fest circuit or they're not out yet, or I'm bad at using the internet, which I think is partially true because I'm getting older, and I also think the internet is getting dumber. Oligarchs running things doesn't ever make them better. So anyway, Peacock, the 2024 film from Bernhard Wenger. Again, I don't say it's so obscure. There's not even a Wikipedia page for this film or for the director. It does pop up on the Venice Film Festival Wikipedia page, though. So it's really great. Keep an eye out for it when it drops eventually, wherever it drops in streaming. If I'm well organized, and by that I mean if slash when my media person becomes aware of it and lets me know, I'll probably update where it's. That's not true because these streaming sites are a mess. Scratch that. Find it yourself. Survival of the most adaptable. So anyway, I put this as part one. Again, I saw 7 films at the film festival. I don't know if I'm going to talk about all 7. Some of them weren't very much about mental health. And so I like to obviously build around mental health for most of my content because that's what I know and that's what I feel qualified to speak on. So we'll see. But definitely a couple more. Magic Farm was really good. Dead Lover was entertaining. The other 5-star film that I really liked a lot at the film festivals, Vulcan Isadora, which I'll definitely talk about. So some of those are coming. We also saw Sally, which was a really great documentary about Sally Ride and how she had to live a very public life, and so her private life and her life partner were kept sort of secret. And her partner Tam was at the film fest and did a Q&A after the showing, and that was really great and lovely. Maybe we'll talk about that more. And we saw an Irish film called Four Mothers, which was like lovely and kind and not the kind of movie that it's not made for me. I'm not that target audience on feel-good family films, which isn't. Oh, that's a terrible summary of that movie. That's just the genre it would be and not the actual movie. But we'll see if I do 7 reviews. The other thing with my ADHD is I forget who's in movies. I forget directors' names. I mispronounce things. So the longer I go between seeing something and doing a video on it, the worse the video is. So the longer these things take, the less likely I am to stick to the film festival. Support your local artists. Support local cinema. If you are in a place where you are in your life where you can support that financially, or you're a poor college student or whatever, like go volunteer, go take tickets, go hand out polls and review sheets at your local film festival. Like these are very cool events, and there are ways where you can work with it even if it doesn't seem attainable. Supporting art in a time of authoritarian regimes is important. That's part of the resistance. So yeah, connect to your local community, support your local artists, support your local artistic community. All right, y'all. That's all I got for the first film review. Peacock, really great, loved it. Check it out when it comes to a theater near you or gets on streaming. And like, subscribe, drop down in the comments. All that stuff helps people find me and work with me if they're looking for a mental health professional to work with. So that's super helpful. And if there's something you want to hear me talk about, pop culture thing, show, movie, whatever, song, drop down in the comments and let me know. I have a little bit of a list built up right now for some comments that I'm still working through to get to the reviews. But I do try and review the things that people request. So do those YouTube-y things, like, subscribe, drop down in the comments, let me know what you want to hear. As always, take care of yourself, take care of somebody else. Peace.